Go Blue, I'm Steve Dace. Welcome to another Instant Reaction podcast here on the channel. I am solo this week. Noah had an important date with the girlfriend, so he left me high and dry to handle this one myself. Michigan comes out of East Lansing with a 31-20 victory over Michigan State. Wolverines now have won 4 in a row in this series for the first time since Lloyd Carr finished with a 6-game winning streak against Sparty at the end of his Hall of Fame career here in Ann Arbor. Paul Bunyan stays home where it belongs. But in typical Michigan State fashion, unless we're talking 2023 and maybe the greatest team in the history of the program, this one was a bit of a slog, a bit of a head scratcher, a whole bunch of what you doings, grinders. You never really felt Michigan was going to lose. You never really felt, although, at the first sign of adversity, I'm posting on X that we are. But by now, you guys are used to that. This is how I roll, right? But, looking at the game flow, it never really seemed as if Michigan was going to lose. It also never really seemed as if Michigan was pulling away. Michigan is a talented, young, flawed team that is still developing a passing game versus a not as talented, young Michigan State team that just still has a lot of development to do as a program. And I think that kind of played itself out in what we watched for the last 3.5 hours and then the end result. But and I think we learned some things in this game, and we need to talk about moving forward for the rest of this season. But for now, let's get to some positives because, hey, there have been great Michigan teams that have gone to East Lansing and lost. All right. 2021, for example. We won. I'm old enough to remember when we put up 7 points against Michigan, a Michigan State team that lost at home to Central Michigan, with an offense that had Tyrone Wheatley, Tim Biaka-Batuka, Amani Toomer, Mercury Hayes, and an NFL quarterback named Todd Collins. We put up 7 points against Sparty in that game. So I mean, the 1999 team absolutely loaded. You had Tom Brady and Drew Henson at quarterback. You're just loaded with pros all over that team. Went up to East Lansing and lost. All right, so don't ever take a win in East Lansing for granted. In fact, Michigan has scored 80 points now in its last 2 trips to Spartan Stadium. That's the most combined points Michigan has scored in consecutive trips to East Lansing since you got to go back to 1981 and 1983. And those are some of the darkest years, the early 80s there, in the history of Michigan State football. So it's been a minute since Michigan has put up 80 combined points against Michigan State in its stadium. So let's not take anything away from that. Let's celebrate any kind of rivalry win for sure, especially when Michigan gets its most rushing yards against Michigan State since 1994. That's right, since 1994. So both Justice Haynes, who had a spectacular third quarter, Michigan made a key adjustment there. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then Jordan Marshall came in and finished the game. Both end up with over 100 yards rushing in the game. And that was basically the entire offense. In some respects, this was a replay of what you saw against Penn State in 2023, where Michigan threw 1 pass the entire half. I think we threw 2 the entire half here. So this is also a still developing offensive line. We're down to our last 2 playable offensive tackles with last week's injury to Evan Link. So getting it done on the road in a rivalry game, don't ever take that for granted. Don't ever look the gift horse in the mouth. Don't ever complain. I'm not going to do any of those things. I'm going to take the W. I hate this game. It's the game I hate the absolute most every single year. And I'm just glad it's over with and we got the W. And now we can move on with all of our season goals still on the table. All right. So the key adjustment that was made. I think we came out, our game plan, we looked at Michigan State's pass defense among the worst in the country. And I think we clearly came out and said we want to exploit that. So for people complaining about a conservative game plan, go back. I'm wondering, are you watching the game? All right, because Michigan did not come out in a conservative game plan at all. It fully intended to come out and showcase Bryce Underwood. He just wasn't up to the task. And the passing game in total wasn't up to the task. And sometimes you can be too smart by half as a coach. And you can say, hey, we're going to do what the other team doesn't do well. When first you need to establish that you do what you do well. Right? Do what you do well first. Now, a year from now in Bryce's development, and you're playing a team whose pass defense is this bad, we're down to go. All right, but we're not there yet. He's still an 18-year-old kid, and this is still a pretty big stage on the road in a rivalry game. All right, so you got to do what you do well first, and we made that adjustment. Went back to the running game. The second quarter, I don't know what that was. I mean, that was program-wide embarrassment for the Michigan program. Michigan special teams got better in the second half because they couldn't get any worse, including maybe the best punting game we've had all year, although admittedly that bar is low. But Michigan special teams are the worst I can ever remember collectively at times. I mean, they're pretty bad. We had back-to-back fair catches that for reasons only Allah knows. Samaj Morgan, fair catch inside the 5. He tackled Justice Haynes in the open field. I don't know if you saw this. Justice Haynes got so frustrated, he threw Samaj Morgan down on the ground after he did that to him. If you go back and watch that play. Yeah, I'm going to have more on Samaj Morgan here in a moment. But I want to give our coaches credit. They realized after the first drive or so, hey, we've got to go back and do what we do well. And so they did. So credit for that. Okay, rather than sticking to the game plan they wanted to execute coming in, which is they clearly wanted to showcase Bryce in the passing game against an anemic Spartan secondary, but just we're not there yet in this road setting. The talent overall is not there. The development's not there, and so they went to what we do well. So credit where that's due. Also, to come out of the second half, they recognized Michigan State was crashing very hard on all the inside runs. And so they made a slight adjustment where they brought Jalen Hoffman in alongside Max Bredesen. So now you've got 2 tight ends, and they're sealing the edge to get Justice outside because they're shooting too many of these gaps, the inside gaps. And Justice just absolutely destroyed them with that in the third quarter. And that essentially is what made the game separation that Michigan eventually used to win it possible. So credit to the coaches where that's concerned. Credit to Wink. We didn't see a bunch of reckless blitzing here tonight. You saw him essentially trust his front most of the time. They delivered with a lot of consistent pressure and contain. Took about a drive or two for Michigan to adjust after Cole Sullivan went out with an injury. Here's hoping that's not serious. And then Jimmy Rolder basically played the game of his life. He had consecutive 4th down stops, was all over the field. I mean, this was a Jimmy Rolder Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week highlight tape. He was absolutely phenomenal. It's like, and he's got the big armband and everything else out there, looking like Eric Anderson, 1991, for you old fogies who remember Michigan's first Butkus Award winner. I mean, that was just some old school Michigan neck roll linebacker there today by Jimmy Rolder. So great job out of him. So all of our season goals now are on the table. All right, we're 6-2, but we're 4-1 in the league. All right, this was a very front-loaded schedule this year. I thought we were going to go 9-2 into the Ohio State game at the start of the year, and I thought we'd split those 4 tough road games. I thought we'd lose at Oklahoma, beat Nebraska, lose at USC, beat Michigan State, and that's how it ended up. And now these next few weeks, you get Purdue, who's winless in the conference. You get them at home. Then you get a bye. Then you get Northwestern, who's plucky, but you're just comprehensively more talented then, and you're going to play them at Wrigley Field, and there's probably going to be more Michigan fans there than Northwestern fans, if we're being honest. I'm going to be among them, to be honest. And then you're at Maryland. Do we just play at Maryland every year now? Is that what we do? Just at Maryland every year before the Ohio State game. So I would imagine there'll be a bit of a letdown spot there, but I also just think we're better in the line of scrimmage than them. So these aren't all going to be 2023 laughers. I'm not sure any of them will be, but I think Michigan will end up winning these games. They may look a lot like what this one against Michigan State looked like. But to me, I think there are 2 things we have to correct moving forward. Because there's lots of different ways we can get to 9-2 before the Ohio State game, and then you've got everything on the line. It's very possible it's win and you're in the Big Ten championship. It's even more likely it's win and you're in the college football playoff. But you can get to 9-2 and then have Ohio State give you a reality check in that last game of the year. So you think going in, hey, all our season goals are on the table, we can pull this off, and then you get that reality check and you realize, yeah, we're not there. Or you can play a certain way and make some executive decisions as a staff that demonstrates, oh, not all 9-2s here are the same, right? And there's another 9-2 where it's clear some things improved and got better. I'll mention one of them here in a moment. That's for sure got to get better. And then you think, all right, we're humming along right at the right time. We can win this thing, all right? The passing game has got to get figured out. And I understand we've got an 18-year-old quarterback. I understand we don't have the deepest receiving core. But the tight end passing game that really unlocked Bryce's best game yet in a Michigan uniform against Washington last week was just nowhere to be found in this game, which makes no sense to me given the way we were running the football. I mean, you would think play action to the tight ends down the seam, up, over the middle with the way they were crashing against the run would have been there all game. And we didn't even really try it. Marlon Klein has to play less. In fact, him and Samaj Morgan both have to play yes, but Samaj is going to get his own section of this because unfortunately he's earned it. But Marlon Klein has to play less. He did this thing again. Now this time he lined up almost on the other side, almost in the Michigan State defensive line on a drive, and you saw Sharon Moore just light him up. He's your captain. No, we've got other tight ends. I don't know why we didn't see the two guys that performed well against Washington, Zach Marshall and Deacon Tonielli. I mean, the way they played, Tonelli, they should have played more. Especially, and you know why? Because of the way Marlon Klein was playing. Garbage. Absolutely played like garbage. He had no business going down there and doing the Paul Bunyan pose with Jordan Marshall in his touchdown. Instead, he should have hung his head in shame and just jogged off to the field. Feeling blessed that he didn't get benched for either Zach Marshall or Deacon Tonelli in the second quarter, let alone throughout the entire second half. That just can't, that guy's just, that's got to go. We need a tight end passing game. All I know is last week we had one with those two guys against a way better team. And this week we didn't have one with that guy. Not to mention, this is the second straight road game. He has not known where the line of scrimmage is. There's another play you can see where Bryce begins to scramble and has a decent shot at a first down. And even though Bryce is well beyond the line of scrimmage and cannot throw it to him, Marlon Klein either runs away from blocking somebody or continues in a route that Bryce cannot throw because he's past the line of scrimmage. Again, I don't know which it is. All I know is it's bad. And he's your senior, he's your captain, has to have more awareness than that. We had way more precision in our offense last week with the other two guys playing tight end. Marlon Klein's going to have to play less. And Samaj Morgan, frankly, just should not see the field. I mean, I've just never seen. I mean, there were plays. I mentioned already the play where Justice Haynes just throws him down because he tackled him in the open field. Otherwise, he might have had a touchdown. A fair catch inside the 5. Another drop, take a drink. No, don't, because you're in the methadone clinic by now. All right. You're not. In fact, you don't. It's not even a drinking game. It's a tap the vein game. If you just literally want to just drop out of human society and reality altogether, all right, just, hook yourself up to a drip for every Samaj Morgan drop. I've never seen a player. I've been here for every game. I've been here for every game live since 1983. And I've never seen a Michigan football player that has been permitted to hurt his teammates more than Samaj Morgan has been. That has to end. It appears he was benched now, and after he tackled Justice Haynes in the open field, and that Channing Goodwin, who's not any good, all right? Channing Goodwin is not good. But maybe he's just not dumb. We can put up with not good and dumb, or dumb. But we can't have not good and dumb. Can't be not good and dumb. Samaj has got to go. I mean, Samaj Morgan, frankly, should not play another meaningful snap in down of Michigan football for the rest of this season. He's done nothing, earned nothing. He's an absolute liability. I've never seen one player hurt his teammates as much as Samaj Morgan has gotten away with this season. And I've watched every game since 1983. And it just has to stop. I mean, there's got to be something better and more and smarter than whatever it is that he is doing out there. It's a mistake waiting to happen. You're almost to the point where you're thinking, hey, he's not on the field. Something good will happen now. That's just got to stop. He makes way too many mistakes, and he doesn't bring enough to the table in other places to justify a tenth of them, let alone all of them. So Marlon Klein needs to be challenged a lot by the younger tight ends. And then Hogan Hansen, I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, I don't have a clue. I mean, that's another weird Michigan situation where they think they're being all, skullduggery by not telling us anything, and instead we're just like, yeah, whatever, man. Okay, fine, go out there with your crap tight end then, I guess. I don't know. But the other two guys have to play more. And Marlon Klein needs to decrease so Deacon Tonelli and Zach Marshall can increase. And then Samaj Morgan just, there was a game years ago against Iowa. And Michigan had a special teams coach. What was his name? Was it Jim Betcher or something like that? I can't remember. Michigan had a special teams coach. They were playing a game in Iowa in 2003. And he decided that game to switch to kind of the same rugby-style punting now that we see all throughout college football, where the punter kind of takes off running and waits and then punts it. Except we were not very good at it, and Iowa kept destroying us with it. And it really cost us the football game. And Bob Greasy's calling the game. You can go find it on YouTube, watch it for yourself. He's like, what is Michigan doing out here, right? That was the last game that Michigan special teams coach ever coached. To this day, no one knows what happened to him. I mean, it's like Michigan just put him in a barrel as they drove over the Mississippi River to go back to Michigan, dropped him in it, and just said, sleeps with the fishes, we're out of here. I mean, he disappeared. He never coached another. I'm not making this up. He never coached another game at special teams for Michigan after that Iowa game and disappeared. It's like an urban legend. To this day, like no one knows what happened to this guy, right? Like I can't even remember his name. He's just Lloyd Carr, from a coaching standpoint, unalived him. It's just, he was done here. We're moving on. And it's like this guy was never born. It's like his daddy wore a condom that night. Never happened. Just never happened. That's what needs to happen with Samaj Morgan. Just has to end. This has to end. I'm sorry. These games are highly paid for. Donors pay tens of millions of dollars for this roster. TV networks pay hundreds of millions of dollars. You're all earning money now. You're all pros. You cannot be allowed to consistently hurt your teammates like this. It has to end. And you get to a point now where you can't even be mad at Samaj. You have to just point to the coaches and say, why are you doing this? He's made it very clear to you he cannot play. He's made it very clear. So stop it. Find another carbon-based life form. All right? There's got to be somebody else. Stop this. Well, it appears that they finally did. So the tight end room, we need way more out of. It's very clear. We saw this against Washington. That is the key to unlocking the passing game. And I think now we keep seeing over and over again, Marlon Klein is not that key. And then the Samaj, whatever it is, the YOLO, the why not, or Samaj Morgan's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Whatever it is, canceled. Has to be canceled. Move on. All right. That's not happening. It has to end. All right. Give me your thoughts here in the comments of what you thought as Michigan moves to 6-2. Takes on Purdue next week, another night game in Ann Arbor. And I'll have another solo post game for you because I'll be in Ann Arbor for the game next week. So I'll have another. No, wait, Noah's going to be with me. So Noah and I will do it together. Heck, we might just sit there and do it at Michigan Stadium. As a matter of fact, that'd be kind of cool if we did that, right? Maybe we will. All right. See you this week on the channel, guys. Go Blue.